Yes, we're open, everyone.
Thanks, Clark. Morning, members. Warm welcome to this meeting of the Education Committee. We're now in public session. Can I ask Assembly Broadcasting to keep members in the spotlight and take agenda item 1, apologies. Understand that Pat is on his way and Pat is detained for 15 minutes, but will be here shortly. Any other apologies?
Not that I know of, Chair.
Speaking of children's cartoons, I'm laughing because Pat is on his way is a line from Postman Pat. I've been watching too much children's cartoons, sorry. And the Prime Minister has got into my head. Apologies. Okay, agenda item 2, Chairperson's business. Can I refer members to correspondence from the Northern Ireland Forest School Association at page 5 and verbal at page 10? Both groups have offered to hold a committee visit on Wednesday, the 1st of December. The Forest School Association is based at Clandyboy, and Verbal are running a course in a school in Maherfeld. Could I propose that, given changing circumstances, that you would conduct, once we've completed today, I realise how busy the team are today, but maybe before the end of the week, you conduct a risk assessment with regards to the appropriateness of a committee visit, just in the changing circumstances. And that members give a firm commitment to respond to you via email or telephone in relation to a decision on that. Would that be okay?
Yeah, Chair, the committee would have the option to hear from the two private members' bill sponsors and verbal, in a virtual meeting if it decided not to go on a visit. If it decides
Yeah.
to go on a visit, the forest school would be kind of outdoor and distanced. The verbal one would be indoor and distanced.
Okay.
But as you say, it's kind of becoming a bit more cautious again.
Mm.
Uh,
That's helpful. Though obviously the forest school is outdoor, so that may change the any concerns in that regard. Although scheduling an early engagement with the members on their private members bill may also be useful. Members content for
Yeah.
members for content for us to uh, ask the clerk and team to get a bit more info in that regard, but to give a genuine commitment to make sure we respond by email and phone to give a clear steer in a timely way before the end of the week. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks, Clark. Okay, agenda item 3, members, is draft minutes. Can I refer members to draft minutes of the committee meetings on the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th of November at page is 14, 17, 25 and 27 of your meeting packs, and also refer members to draft minutes of the committee meetings on the 22nd of November, holding back minutes of the 23rd of November. Minutes of the 22nd of November are at pages 3 of tabled papers. As I said, we'll take more time to return to the 23rd of November meetings from yesterday, but our members content to agree those other minutes to which I have referred. Agreed?
Agreed, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, members, agenda item 4, matters arising. There are no matters arising. Agenda item 5, correspondence. Can I refer members to page 31, where we have 7 items of correspondence and a summary note at page 32. Clark, do you want to speak to the correspondence, please? Thanks.
Sure, Chair. Members, item 5.3 on page 38 is a response from the Minister of Education to the committee's request for information on COVID-19 contingency plans for schools, as well as the department's funding bids to improve school ventilation. The response highlights a successful bid for £2 million in COVID capital funding for school ventilation. I think members may have been made aware of that in their budget briefing. What would you like to do with this response in terms of follow-up?
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
That's subject matter of that letter, that correspondence from the minister, is contact tracing, and there's no mention of contact tracing in the letter.
That's right.
Is that not a bit bizarre, especially in the context of the discussion we had last week, where there's a petition submitted to the minister with 35,000 signatures around concerns from parents, teachers, families around contact tracing, and there's a letter with subject matter of contact tracing and no mention of contact tracing.
Yeah, I would add to that as well, Justin, that the extent of the content on it, Justin, is that when I have been content that the existing guidance has been working well, that's the extent of the response. And then a reference, as you say, a greater reference on ventilation in schools, which also only, and I'm not seeking to be difficult here, but which appears to only refer to CO2 monitors. And a number of members have asked, would that bid and what has now turned into a purchase order for an expected 10,000 CO2 monitors, whether that would include air filtration as well. It doesn't seem to reference air filtration either. Members be content that we respond to ask for a more substantive response to concerns raised in previous correspondence, Justin, and specific information and data. Clark, if memory serves me right, when we had a session with the CMO, we were advised that more detailed data on schools would be forthcoming in a few weeks' time. We could go to Hansard to check specifically to what that referred, but memory serves me right, we were asking for that the new guidance on contact tracing had been based on data from modelling, not in Northern Ireland, and in the last term of the previous academic year. And we were advised that there would be data in relation to this term, to legitimately examine the outcome of the new contact tracing guidance, and we were told that would be forthcoming in a few weeks. So if we could ask for that, but also a more substantive response to the concerns raised in the previous correspondence, and information with regards to what air filtration devices will be included in that air quality procurement. Are members content with that? Justin, you'd obviously raised the issue.
Yes, as long as we do press around a substantive response to the contact tracing petition, which has been submitted to her.
Yeah.
Chair, can I just come in a wee minute?
Yeah, take Harry and then Robbie, I think that was Harry.
Just to take note that the existing guidance is working well. So, I mean, no matter what we're questioning or asking to be done extra, I mean, I would just like it noted that the existing guidance is working quite satisfactorily at the minute. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Happy to do that, Harry. And I suppose what, the terms of the role of the committee in discharging our responsibility, it seems legitimate to, in response to that information, ask for a bit more detail about what that conclusion is based on. I think that's a legitimate request. Robbie, you want to come in there?
Yep, thank you. I don't disagree at all. I think that the school surveillance data is something that we were told we would get, and that's something we need to get. The other thing I'm just aware of, Chris, is just maybe ask the department or EA with regard to the CO2 monitors, which is something we've been pushing quite a bit. There's been a very small uptake by schools actually in this regard. So there was some effort put into procuring them. Just want to know in terms of maybe the department and the EA how they are encouraging schools to get them, and no one's saying that CO2 monitors are in effect the silver bullet in any way, but they are just a small part of an arsenal that schools can take comfort from in terms of monitoring air quality and so on, and it's an early indicator just of maybe poor ventilation. So just to see if they're doing any promotion of them, because it would be a fruitless exercise to procure them and have them sitting in storage, and then these things do go out of date, by the way. Everything has a shelf life. Fire alarms, smoke alarms, and CO2 monitors too. So it's just to see how they're promoting that within our schools to promote better ventilation. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, happy to add that. So what system is in place for EA to promote awareness of the availability of CO2 monitors to school and to monitor the uptake? the correspondence from the Minister states, my officials will work closely with professional colleagues in Education Authority to assess the effectiveness of this broader rollout of CO2 monitors. So hopefully that's a nod to what we're asking for there, but we can specify that, Robbie. Yep.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, so members content that we respond to seek a more substantive response on concerns raised by the petition site of school surveillance data for this term, information as to whether the procurement of CO2 monitors will include air filtration devices and what system will be in place to promote the availability of said devices and to monitor their uptake and effectiveness. Just before bringing you in, Daniel, members content with that summary of the correspondence? Yeah, okay, thanks. Daniel?
Sorry, I had to run out and take a call there. But I just get the sense that there's a lot of feet trailing in relation to this, and it's deliberate, thinking that this whole thing will pass and that they won't have to put ventilation in. And, any time we're questioning the department or the education authority, that's the sort of attitude we get. We never get anything definitive around this. The letter today, it's evasive, particularly in response to getting sight of contingency plans to deal with an increase in COVID cases in schools. So the department obviously doesn't have any plans. We've expressed concern about that at a very early stage. Regardless of whether the current guidance is working well or not, there was a commitment given to this committee, but there's very little action from what I can see, and it's very difficult to get detail on this. Any letters that I've personally written to the Education Authority or to the Minister are very, very unclear, to be honest. So I think that it's about just getting past the stage where we don't have to do it.
And I agree in the sense that, I think we're entitled to ask for more detail in relation to the response to concerns raised and contingency plans. But to be fair, £2 million has been acquired for CO2 monitoring, but we would like more detail on will that include air filtration devices and on how the devices will be distributed and their effectiveness monitored. So I think that's fair enough.
The other thing, Chair, there's an expectation that schools carry out, I suppose, a survey of their own premises. They don't have the expertise to determine whether there is or isn't sufficient ventilation, or if there is or it isn't required. I think that's not appropriate either. I think the Education Authority should be carrying out these surveys. There's quite a lot of them still working from home.
Yeah, more detail on the distribution and installation, the promotion, distribution, and installation. I think that's fair enough. Okay, members, content.
Chair, could I come in there?
Yeah.
Just to pick up on Daniel's last point, we sat through, I think, a couple of briefings from the EA where they said they were kind of trying to do a bit of a survey of the schools to see what their ventilation needs were. It might be worthwhile going back to the EA, because I sort of think that they slip through the net at times, handily, at times slip through the net in trying to pin down exactly what they are doing about ventilation, and whether, if they can't improve ventilation, at least air filtration is something that is a solution.
Yeah, content for the relevant aspect of that proposed correspondence to go to both the department and the Education Authority. Okay, members? Okay, then back to Clark for next item, please. Thanks.
Okay, so item 5.4 on page 42 is correspondence from the department regarding the launch of a consultation on deferring school starting age. The committee agreed at its meeting on the 10th of November to seek a briefing on the consultation, and members will see that that's now in the forward work plan for early December.
That's great.
Beg your pardon. Item 5.5 on page 96 is correspondence from the department providing an update on the finance budget 2022 to 2025 information gathering exercise. Members, the correspondence highlights a funding gap in the education sector of 367.03 million for 2022-23, with the gap increasing in subsequent years. So I mean that's
Yeah, Clark, the estimated, if I'm not wrong, this is on page 97 of our packs, and the table 1 is the estimated funding gap. And as you say, Clark, 2022-23 estimated funding gap is 366 million. 2023-24 is 450, and 2024-25 is 543 million pounds. Members content that we respond to ask what action is going to be taken in response to that funding gap?
Chair,
Members?
Can I come in there?
Yeah, I think it was Robin and then Daniel. Thanks.
right, thank you, Chair. I did raise with Minister Murphy in the chamber on the matter of investment in education. Investment in education on the basis that we continue to, and rightly, certainly at this moment in time, continue to invest heavily in the health service. But indeed, Chair, in the longer term and investment over a longer term, investing in education has an impact on the health service in the sense that all the studies done by OECD have indicated that where you invest in education, where you improve the quality of qualifications and knowledge in education, it does have a knock-on effect to health. So in terms of the 543 million, it might sure be helpful if we were certainly to write to the department, but also to write to Minister Murphy on actually, and I think the Minister Murphy did acknowledge that in his opinion, what I was saying in the question was sensible and that they would have to look at investment in education for the future.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy for us to write to Finance Minister, and I would probably propose Education Minister here as well, but I'll wait to finalise the precise content of that until I've heard from everyone. Not everyone, anyone who's interested. Daniel?
Yeah, Chair, £500 million of a shortfall, worrying, disturbing, and it's going to have dire consequences for the education of our children, to be honest. And there's little, by the way of conversation, about increased investment in education. You know, if you compare Northern Ireland to England, Scotland, Wales, or even the rest of this island, there is a serious challenge here in terms of educating our young people in the north. And I'm very, very concerned when you compare the level of spend per head on other children in other jurisdictions compared to that of here. So, you know, this is only going to get worse. It's a worsening situation, and one that needs to be recognised by the Assembly. So I'd go further than a letter. I think this is a crisis situation. I certainly have heard that from the department officials. I have heard that from the Education Authority directors, and they are extremely worried. You know, there is a heavy reliance in Northern Ireland on monitoring rounds. And as we've seen, because we're in the middle of a global health pandemic, quite a significant proportion of funding is going to the health service. And there's little in the way of conversation about education or the need to deal with this problem. Now, I think we need to ask the Minister for Education, and I'd make this as a formal proposal, Chair, that we ask the Minister for Finance to appear at this committee if that is possible. We request that he come to this committee so that we can explain to him the considerable financial pressures that are facing education in Northern Ireland, and obviously the consequences of those challenges for our young people and their education.
Okay. Yeah, obviously the Education Committee has raised the alarm about the financial crisis in education for a number of years, and the need for both investment and reform of our public services to adequately fund and provide for our education system has been long running. So, clear action is needed.
Chair,
Maybe members, I'll bring you in as well, Pat. Maybe members would like to take some time to reflect on exactly what the best course of action is that we could take, and I mean 1 week max. We've mentioned writing to the Finance Minister and Education Minister. We've mentioned calling ministers to the committee. I only say this to say how likely it may or may not be that we have invited other ministers other than the Education Minister, and factually that has not been possible for them to attend. So you maybe have an assembly motion, for example, as well. I think given the seriousness of this, it is worth us maybe taking 1 week maximum to consider a course of action before we would agree that. Pat, you want to come in there?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree in principle with what has been said, that there needs to be serious injection of funding, investment into our education system. The difficulty is that, depending on what figures you see, it's between 350 and 500 million has been stripped out of the education budget over the last number of years. And that's merely a reflection of what has also happened to the Black Grant in general, that the British Exchequer has been year on year cutting in real terms the amount of funding that we receive. And it would be easy to point the finger at the executive and members of the executive when really the fundamental problem rests in Westminster and 10 Downing Street and 11. Shall
Okay. Anyone else want to come in on that matter before we move on?
Can I come back in there, Chair?
Very briefly, Daniel. Yep.
Yeah, I think I recognise what Pat's saying in relation to the cuts to the block grant, and that there is serious financial pressures that exist here across all departments. But there's also a serious issue when it comes specifically to Northern Ireland, that there hasn't been a sufficient level of investment in education. In fact, in real terms, education monies here have been cut. There has been a real time cut to investment in education in Northern Ireland. That is not happening anywhere else, and that needs to be drawn out. There was always, people always said health and education. We're not hearing very much about education in the public domain at present, and I think we need to draw a very bright spotlight over this, because ultimately, if our children are going to be the losers in this situation by consequence of a lack of investment in education, the long-term effects for this place will be dire. So we need to deal with this head on. And I understand, Chair, what you're saying about we'll take a week to work out what best way forward of this is. But ultimately, the Education Minister is responsible for education. The person who finances that is ultimately the Executive and the Finance Minister. The Finance Minister holds the purse. We need to draw his attention to how serious the situation is, and we need to try and see if we can reprioritise things to deal with this situation before it's too late.
Sure.
Robbie, very briefly, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Don't disagree with anything that's been said so far. I think it would be good if in the session that we set apart for us, that we get, I'm sure you're thinking this, that Gary Fair from the department, in terms of, because we need to do an analysis on this ourselves. It is right and proper that we prioritise and seek the extra funding for education. There's also another level of scrutiny that we give to the financial reports to understand them better, to inform us in terms of our ask, and also given the bill that's going through, the Integrated Education Bill, which potentially, even in the bill proposal onwards, will bring other financial pressures, and even build into that to future-proof any review of education and stuff. We just need to be ensuring we're talking about everything in the round, Chair. So
yeah, I'm going to try and move us on, and I think that's why we take a short week to reflect on the scale of these pressures and consider what best action the Education Committee could take in response. But it is clear, and has been clear for some time, that decisive action is needed to avert a financial crisis in education. We've known that. So I'm going to propose we take 1 week to reflect and come back on that matter if members are content. I don't think that's unreasonable. Okay?
Content, Chair.
Thanks, members. Clark?
Thank you, Chair. Okay. Item 5.6 on page 108 of your pack is correspondence from the Public Accounts Committee, forwarding a letter from an individual noting concern about their child's experiences within the SEN system. Do members have particular follow-up that they would like for that one?
I think in the first instance, Clark, it would be good to forward that to the Minister and EA for a response, and I would encourage members to. It's a comprehensive letter setting out extremely challenging experiences that I would encourage us to have a closer look at as well. But I think it would be prudent for us to forward that to the Education Minister and the EA for an initial response if members are content.
Chair, I think I've given some consideration to this letter and the various challenges that it throws up. Extremely worrying. I think it may be prudent for this committee to seek the attendance of the Education Authority in this regard. Obviously not to discuss the specific case, but certainly to discuss the issues that are raised from it. Because I'm sure this isn't a case in isolation. There's quite a number that will have experienced similar difficulties. So I think we should be requesting that the Education Authority attend the...
Clark, yeah, thanks for that, Clark. Are EA scheduled in the forward work programme at this stage?
Not just at the moment.
Okay,
Chair.
then let's include that then. Okay, Justin.
Yeah, Chair. I corresponded with Tracy personally as well, and she has already written to the Minister with this information. So the Minister has this information. It's horrendous, and it's the educational trauma I spoke out about in the chamber just last week, which children are experiencing, and the ripple effect is cutting right through the families and into their communities as well, and that needs addressed. It's shockingly sad. I really, really feel for Tracy, and mostly for young Cormac, and it's just a horrendous situation for the family to experiencing, and it needs to be tackled. So I think Daniel's suggestion needs to be actioned post haste.
Yep, happy to do that. Okay. Happy to meet informally, potentially as well in relation to that, but let's seek response from the Education Minister and the EA to the issues raised therein, and schedule EA for update in relation to the issues raised therein, not the specific matters obviously, and consider any further action that might be useful to help with the shortcomings in these areas. Okay, thanks, Clark.
Okay. Members, there are 2 dates for your diaries there at item 5.7 and 5.8, an invitation from Nikki to the launch of a child's rights review of the use of restrictive practices in educational settings in Northern Ireland, and an invitation from the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission to launch its 2021 annual human rights statement. Item 5.9 on page 22 of table papers is correspondence from the Minister of Education providing an update on the finalised arrangements for awarding vocational qualifications in Northern Ireland for the 21-22 academic year. The Minister indicates that all vocational qualifications taken after the 1st of September 2021 will be awarded based on evidence from exams and other assessments, and will not be based on teacher assessed grades. So what are members' views on that one?
I think we need to reflect on that as well. Has that been made by a statement from the Minister for Economy?
It is from the Minister. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
That's from the Minister of Education. I'm just not sure if that had been communicated by Economy Minister publicly at this stage. Yeah, okay. Members wish to reflect on that.
Sorry, Chair, what page is that on? Committee
it's on table papers, page 22. I think that is in line with the approach being taken in schools, Clark, I believe. Okay, members wish to reflect on that correspondence as it obviously only arrived this week. and we can return to that as well if necessary. Okay, Clark.
Okay, so members, that's the correspondence to date.
Okay, members content to dispose of the correspondence as per summary and page 32 with the above exceptions. Agreed? Thank you. Okay, forward work programme. Can I refer members to a draft forward work programme on page 30 of tabled papers? Refer members to the draft stakeholder list for a call for evidence on the CPR bill at page 35 of tabled papers. The list also has a link to the citizen space questionnaire. And if members have any additional stakeholders they would like to add, if they could bring that to the attention of the clerk. Is that okay, Clark? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can also refer members to the draft stakeholder list for a call for evidence on the period products bill at page 37 of tabled papers, and questions for the citizen space questionnaire, page 39 of tabled papers, and ask members if they have additional stakeholders they would like to add to bring that to the attention of the clerk as well. Can I seek members' agreement to write to the Committee for Health, the Committee for Communities and the Committee for the Economy, asking them to share the call for evidence for the period products bill with their relevant stakeholders? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, thanks. And advise members that responses to the call for evidence for these bills will close just before Christmas recess, and the 30-day committee stage ends in early January. Would members wish to put a motion to the House for an extension of committee stage for these bills and consider what dates seem reasonable? And Clark could add that the extension does, of course, not have to be used. It's really to create the space if needed. You want to speak to that, Clark?
Yeah, so the committee's call for evidence has just gone out yesterday for CPR, Monday for CPR, yesterday for period products free provision, and the minimum time really that the Assembly takes for a call for evidence like that is 4 weeks, and a lot of committees are doing that at the moment, given that we're so close to the end of the mandate. Those responses will come in on the 17th and 18th of December. The Assembly goes into recess almost immediately, so it doesn't leave a vast amount of time for members to select their stakeholders for oral evidence and hear from them and start their deliberation. And as we've just seen, there's a need to phase the evidence taking and the deliberation and the decision making in all of this, or it becomes congested at the end of the process. So it may be that the committee will need to extend into February at least. But we'll hear.
Is it just me, or has the clerk frozen?
Yes, she's frozen. There seems to be some connection problems this morning, Chair. I'm not sure why.
Okay. While we await the clerk returning, I think the conclusion of the comments there were going to be that we may be hearing from the proposer of both bills next Wednesday. Therefore, that might be a time for us to take a decision with regards to the need or otherwise for extension of committee stage on those bills. Members content that I have alerted you to the need for consideration of that and a decision on that, and we could return to that next week to make final decision on extensions. Members content with that, or anyone wishes to come in? Diane, Diane?
Yeah. You may have told us this, Chair, and it is in the melee of the Integrated Education Bill has completely escaped my head. When the duty is on the Health Minister, for example, in the period products bill, why is the Education Committee taking it on?
Yeah, so a practicality in that we were asked to take it on because there is significant reference to education related bodies, not least schools, in terms of free period product provision in schools. Obviously, we had done a fair amount of work in relation to period product provision in schools as well. And as I have said, we are acting as a lead department, so we will be writing to the other committees to ask them to seek evidence from relevant stakeholders engaged by the bill for them. But there may also be adjustments made to the bill, obviously, during the committee stage that may adjust what those duties otherwise are. But yeah, we're the lead committee. We were asked to be the lead committee due to the number of bills the health committee are dealing with and the engagement of the Department of Education on this bill in terms of free period product provision in schools. But the other committees will have work to do in relation to those items which engage them as well. Is that fair enough, Diane?
Yeah, it just seems incredibly strange that this is where we are at, and yet we're not considering any clause-by-clause examination of the Autism Bill, which is massively important for education.
Which is with the health committee, yeah.
Because exactly. So I'm just wondering, like, how on earth did we get into this position?
Okay, and look, that obviously we need to manage workload, but members will wish to engage with the Autism Bill, as you said, also.
I know, but I think we should formally engage with the Autism Bill. It's very, very important.
Well, I'm
one
happy.
Of the biggest issues that comes across my desk.
If memory serves, 100%. If memory serves me correct, I think the committee did meet with the proposer of the Autism Bill as well, and happy to re-engage.
The bill, that's what I'm saying, and it's one of the biggest issues that we have.
Okay, so we're happy for us to reflect on that. I'm conscious of time as well here, members. I think the clerk is trying to re-engage. Let me just check in terms of forward work program there. I think we can return for. I've alerted you to the need for decisions in relation to potential extension on those bills, and of the need for you to glance and consider the stakeholders that we've identified for evidence and the potential for. We've got the clerk back. The potential for us hearing from the proposers are next week. So, Clerk, would it be appropriate for us to take final decisions on extension, any potential extension of those bills next week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think it would
okay, members.
With it, so it takes a little while.
No problem. Okay, members content with the forward work program as amended. Agreed.
Yeah. Also, we've got the review of education coming on the 15th. That's just been confirmed. So.
Chair, one suggestion, just through yourself into the clerk here. On the 9th of December, Nikki obviously have got the launch of their report into restraint in schools. So I'm just thinking, would it be prudent maybe to even contact Nikki at this stage and maybe invite them in at some stage in the new year to speak to that report?
Yep. Positive suggestion. Obviously, hopefully, I'm attending that event as well, but and obviously it's an open invitation to members. But yeah, I think that's a fair suggestion, Robbie. We can seek to program that in the forward work program.
Thank you.
Okay, members. Agenda item 7 is formal consideration of the Integrated Education Bill report. I had proposed that we would take some time to review that and then return. Time has moved on, so would members be content if we take a brief adjournment until 11 o'clock to make sure that we have adequate time to come back on that? Yeah?
11 is good, Chair.
Yeah, okay, so members, I'd propose that we go into closed session and give ourselves an opportunity just to review minutes for Wednesday the 23rd of November, and which, let me just double check. I told you where they are earlier, but yep, 23rd of November, page 6 of table papers, and then the report, Clerk, is in table papers as well, at page 48. So page 6 are your minutes for the 23rd of November, and page 48 is your draft report. Members, go into closed session, take a pause to review that information, and we will return at 11 a.m. sharp to proceed with agenda item 7. Okay?
Okay, just a moment, please. Okay, we're open, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Clark. Welcome everyone back to this meeting of the Education Committee, and move us to agenda item 7, our formal consideration of the Integrated Education Bill report. Can I refer members to a draft report on the committee stage of the bill at page 48 of tabled papers? Remind members that as the committee stage is about to conclude, the committee's report must be agreed today. Advise members that we will proceed through the report by section, and I will be asking the committee if it is formally content with the report. The contents page is at page 50 of tabled papers. Are members content with the contents page as drafted? Agreed? I'll need audible responses on this.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. The powers and membership section is at page 51 of tabled papers. Can I ask members if they are content with the powers and membership section of the report as drafted?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
Great, thank you. The list of abbreviations and acronyms used in the report is at page 53 of tabled papers. Are members content with this section of the report as drafted?
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you. Okay, the executive summary of the report is at page 54 of tabled papers. Can I ask members if you're content with this section of the report as drafted?
Sure.
Yeah, Justin?
Just back to the list of abbreviations and acronyms, just put in EFM.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, so returning to the executive summary then at page 54 of tabled papers, are members content with this section?
Content, Chair.
Content.
Yeah, I'm content as well, yeah. Okay, no objections? Okay, the introduction then is at page 56 of tabled papers. Can I ask members if you're content with the introduction section as drafted? Agreed?
Content. Agreed.
Chair.
Yeah, is that Robbie?
Yeah.
Robbie?
In terms of the executive summary,
Yeah.
sorry, we said it moved on. I didn't turn the page over. It has a couple of paragraphs in there that I would maybe suggest it could be adjusted for balance and efficiency. Paragraphs 2 and 3. I have an alternative form of words.
Okay, so page, yeah, so
55.
the executive summary starts at page 54.
Yep, but if you go to page 55,
Yeah, okay.
paragraph
So
2, paragraph 3.
Okay, so the paragraphs aren't numbered as such, but I get what you're saying. The second paragraph on the page, which starts a range of views. Yeah.
So I propose that we put that into one paragraph and adjust the wording to read as follows. A range of views was reflected in the clause by clause consideration full stop. Members expressed a range of support, qualified support or no support for the clauses and amendments as proposed. Full stop. Further work, adjustment or advice has been asked for in relation to the bill in some instances. And take away the third paragraph then.
Yeah, I appreciate the proposal and maybe seek some clarity from the clerk. As I had discussed previously, reference to supporting the clauses is a technicality. It expresses that the clauses are proceeding without opposition.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
Yeah. So Clark, do you want to maybe give us a bit of response in terms of whether those form of words actually adequately reflect the technicality of what happened or is happening?
I've got the first line of it. So Robbie, members expressed a range of support, such as qualified support or no support for clauses and amendments.
Yeah.
And then you've got a line about further consideration.
Yeah, so just further work adjustment or advice has been asked for in relation to a number of clauses and amendments. And that probably is a definition of what the qualified means, to be fair. And then what it does is it means that all of the members are in the same paragraph in terms of the import of their support, amendment, or lack of support. And then you can do away with that next paragraph. It just brings it all into one paragraph of where the committee was and what happened with it.
Read your first paragraph there then again, Robbie, slowly.
Okay, so the first words don't change. A range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, full stop. Okay. Members expressed a range of support, qualified support or no support for the clauses and amendments as proposed. And then the next bit is possibly just defining what qualified support means. So it's further work, adjustment or advice has been asked in relation to further support for the clauses or amendments.
Yeah, I mean, maybe to clear the technicality, that could change slightly to whilst a majority of members supported the clauses. Well, no, I'm all right with the text as it is, to be honest with you. Without
and I do accept this as
an
the executive summary piece because it gets a bit more detailed as it goes on. I get that, Chair, too. But I think that what I've offered is probably a more accurate reflection when there was maybe a majority of clauses need attention, shall we say? And that would be accurate, I think.
Yeah, I guess the language as it stands says a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments either entirely or subject to further work on adjustments, advice and clarifications. I don't know if the two phrases are markedly different, Robbie, but I'll circle around everybody else for you here. Appreciate the genuine effort being made.
Thanks,
and a quick circle. Pat, as it stands, or Robbie's amendment?
Yeah, I honestly don't see any substantive difference between the two. If members would be happier for a change of words, I'm happy to go along with it. But I'm also happy if members agree with the those words as they currently sit. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort. I mean that genuinely. I just genuinely am not. I think the first form of words might be slightly technically more efficient. But okay, Robin.
Thank you, Chair. I think Robbie does. Sorry, first of all, thank you to Robbie. I think he does add a little bit more clarity to it. And that's not to take away from the work of the committee clerk.
Okay.
I don't see that there would be the necessity. I think leaving in the next sentence would again add even greater clarity, Chair.
So leave the second. Well, leave the sentence starting a number of committee members in.
Yeah,
Robin. Yeah, that would be my view too. Okay, Daniel.
Yeah, Chair, I've been listening to this, and the paragraph that Robbie refers to before he's amended just doesn't sit comfortably with me either. There was a range of views reflected. This is a range of views reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, but it goes on to say that the clauses and amendments were supported either entirely or subject to further work. There needs to be, I don't believe that's balanced. There's only a couple of statements from my memory of yesterday at the end that were supported in their entirety, and they weren't matters of great substance, as you know. So the impression left by the paragraph, I don't believe to be accurate. So it needs to convey, in my opinion, that there was concern with quite a number of the statements, and they needed substantial work and amendment.
Okay, so what about?
I don't think Robbie goes far enough, but I don't think that the current statement is reflective either. I don't think it's balanced because there was concerns expressed throughout yesterday. But and the reason I'm pointing this out is not to be in any way awkward. It's actually just to give a clear reflection of that there was concerns in relation to a wide range of clauses, and that there was a view, particularly from my perspective, that we would proceed on subject to legal advice and amendment, and I said that quite consistently yesterday on a number of clauses.
Okay, so whilst I'm content with the wording, I will endeavour to be helpful in terms of amendment. Which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments. If we remove either entirely and just go with majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments, subject to further work on adjustment, advice, clarification, and amendment. Does that help you, Daniel?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Come again, Chair.
So maybe if you, given that, okay, maybe you remove either entirely, or you remove those three words, and we then read a range of views were reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments, subject to further work on adjustments, advice, clarification, and amendment.
Yeah, that covers it. That covers it much better, I think.
I'm keen to make sure that this is consistent with what we technically need to reflect. Clark, does that do any injury to what we need to reflect?
No, I don't believe it does. I think it's for members to, set the balance here. I don't have figures. I don't have party positions. So for you to calibrate this as you're doing is actually very helpful. And
I mean,
it's get the accuracy, really.
It's just this one paragraph, to be fair. Range of views reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, of which a majority of members support. I mean, support reflects non-opposition. These are, I and no in the Assembly chamber is binary. Support, oppose are the technical binaries in terms of what you do on this. Then you can try and qualify it thereafter. If me conceding either entirely helps in order for this to pass, then this report to pass, then so be it. The Hansard reflects my support, for my wide-ranging support, and other people's qualified comments. It's there for everybody. Proposed amendments subject to further work on adjustments, advice, and clarifications. Yeah, there is going to be further work. So, okay, Robbie, Kate, I realise we haven't entirely allowed your proposal to pass.
Chair, are you bringing in other members?
Yeah, of course. That would be my alternative proposal, Robbie. For good order, let me allow your proposal to go round here, and then maybe return to my clarification work with Daniel.
Let me make something quite clear here. I made the proposal based on discussions we had to try and assist some people. I didn't have a huge issue with it before, but I did recognise there was some. If the other proposal is substantive and stuff, I don't mind. I genuinely don't mind. It's been helpful, the discussion so far.
Okay, well, so Daniel, you conclude on the form of words that is there on page 55, and then I'll move round.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy with what you'd suggested then at the end.
Right, okay, so I'll pass around other members on the words as they are for now. Okay, Robbie?
Yeah, if the others are content that had the issue with it, I'm content with that, Chair.
Okay, so wait, just to clarify, okay, the words as they stand on the page are, a range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration. True. Of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments. True, in technicality, in terms of it passing, okay, it was not opposed. Currently reads either entirely. Okay, there were some clauses and amendments passed in support entirely, or subject to further work on adjustments, advice, and clarifications and amendments. I think the clerk has used all those words to try and make sure everyone's qualifications are as reflected as possible. Okay, sorry, amendments isn't in there at the moment, and clarifications. Okay, I have, in an effort to try and be helpful, although I'm entirely content with the current form of words, suggested that we could remove either entirely and just read majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments, subject to further work on adjustments, advice, clarifications, and amendments. So maybe I've superseded your original suggestion, Robbie, here in the flow of going round, but Daniel is comfortable with my proposal, but I'm happy to go around everybody else to see where we're at. Okay, so got the Robbie, now we're at Diane.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, we're in a sad and sorry state when we're actually at the last minute proposing amendments without seeing them written down, without them having been sent to members, and without anybody giving them a second's thought. I have been in many positions in my whole political lifetime, and I have not ever seen this done. And I want that on the record. I think this is now like a terrible process. Can I take members back to the last bit of the sentence at the top of the page, and again makes the point that I made at the start of this meeting. The committee has come to an overall position of qualified support for the clauses of the bill as drafted. Now, if anybody was at the same meeting that I was at yesterday, that does not reflect the position of the committee.
Yeah,
so expressing no, let me finish. No,
okay,
I just want to finish.
Go ahead.
Expressing no opposition is now in this context taken as support. Or not forcing a vote is taken as support.
If you read that,
I don't think that is an accurate reflection of what happened yesterday. If I think of clause 7, for example, in the bill that was presented to us, the only person who supported clause 7 in its entirety was you, Chair.
That's not even an accurate reflection of what I said, by the way, but there were other clauses that were supported in their entirety.
And they were the name of the bill, the short name, the long name, etc. Yes, they were supported in their entirety. They had no material impact on the actual substance of the bill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to respond, but I want to let you finish as well, Daniel. Diane, sorry. Thanks.
I don't know whether that's.
I'm sorry.
I genuinely don't.
Apologies.
I've made my point. I think that we're now in a very slippery slope of providing us a report that actually doesn't reflect what happened yesterday.
Okay, so to respond, yeah, if you read that one sentence you referred to, which is one sentence of a 60+ page report, yeah, you'll not get an accurate reflection of the meeting. Unsurprisingly, it's one sentence. The paragraph thereafter is the one that we speak about, which immediately refers to a range of views, qualifies the support subject to advice and amendments, and then the paragraph immediately after that states in stark clarity a number of committee members did not agree with the clauses as drafted, or with the proposed amendments, or with the committee amendments. I don't know how anybody could be left in any doubt that there are members on this committee who do not support the clauses, proposers' amendments, or the committee's amendments. Okay, moving on then. Nicola?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, listen, I think your proposal there of removing either entirely or is spot on. I'm happy with that there.
Okay. Thanks, Nicola. Justin?
Happy with what you proposed, Chair. I want to go back a couple of paragraphs when you're ready to move beyond this point.
No problem. Is that in the executive summary section, Justin?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, once I finish this, I'll come back to you then. Thanks. Harry?
Okay, thank you, Chair. And while I do appreciate your work, Evie, and you know that, I mean, it is up for a wee bit of chat here. page 55 again, okay. A range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration. I mean, my feelings of the meeting, totally. After that, I'd be saying, like, full stop. And what I would have been, how I would have been reading it would have been, a majority of members did not support the bill clauses as read. I mean, I really felt we didn't support the bill clauses as read, and either removal or amendments would be required. Would that not be more reflective? Happy for comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Harry. Okay, so we need to deal in specifics here, folks. We do have to agree, and if it needs to go to a vote, it can go to a vote on these sections. So this is executive summary section. I think there were members that were content with the section. A minority of members, and you can disagree with me here if anybody wishes, a minority of members were not content. Some people expressed specific concerns, and whilst I am entirely content with it, there is a proposal to amend the paragraph slightly to read: a range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments. I mean, either entirely is entirely accurate, but I mean, Daniel, Justin, are you inclined to vote against the wording as it currently is, without the removal of either entirely and the addition of amendment? Daniel, then. Okay, so hopefully Daniel can return there, and I'll recap what he had suggested he was content with, which was: a range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments, subject to further work on adjustments, advice, clarification, and amendments. Daniel, just seeking clarification that you would not support the wording as it is, i.e. you would vote against it, and B, you would support and be content with removal of either entirely or, and that be changed, the final part of it, to read: subject to further work on adjustments, advice, clarification, and amendment. Can you confirm that for me, please?
He's frozen, now he's back, Chair.
Daniel, oh, we've got movement. Daniel, can you just clarify?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to help out here. So there, a minority of members, it seems, were against the section, and there were a number of members who seemed to be content with the wording. I'm just checking with you if your position is against the current wording, and you are...
No, I have concerns that the mood of the meeting.
You broke up there, Daniel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I have concerns that it just doesn't reflect properly. I think the suggestion you had originally, before I had left the room briefly there, was tidied it up significantly. It just provides further clarification. That's really, what needs to be done. But it's I just don't think it's entirely accurate in its current form. But it's those slight proposals or amendments are helpful.
Okay. I'm just trying to check here, because we are now, if we have to vote on these sections, then we can vote on them. So are you...
I think was it Deanne that said it, in the first paragraph, the clauses of the bill subject to legal advice and amendment might be helpful, as opposed to as drafted.
Okay. Okay, so a range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendment. So are you saying you could live with and proposed amendments either entirely or subject to further work on adjustments, legal advice, clarification, and amendment? Would that work?
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
work. That
Okay.
tidies.
So final proposal, folks. I'm proposing for that paragraph, Robbie. Hopefully, this is you're content with this because I appreciated the effort that you made originally to navigate us through it. So I'm saying that we could it could read a range of views was, and Clark, you can advise me if you're content with this as well. A range of views was reflected in the clause by clause consideration, of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments either entirely or subject to further work on adjustments, legal advice, clarifications, and amendment. And if we need to vote on that, we can vote on it if there are members who are just opposed to this language. I'll do a quick circle. I'm content with the
Robbie's proposal.
Sorry?
So we're ceasing to consider Robbie's proposal now.
Robbie, you okay if I respectfully cease your proposal in favour of mine?
Okay, my feeling, yeah, I'll suck it up. No problem, Chair.
Sorry about that, Robbie. I'm trying to get as much consensus as I can. It would seem regrettable not to. Okay, I'm content with my proposed amendment. Pat?
I'm content with that proposal also, Chair.
Thanks, Pat. And I think we're on yes or no here, folks, in lieu of other proposals. Robin?
Content, Chair, just for clarification, the second sentence, a number of committee members, it remains in.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that makes sense, Robin. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Daniel?
Sorry, Chair. I had a call from someone else there. Could 2 seconds? So that's
no problem.
Go ahead.
You content with the amendments that I've made there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I heard.
Thanks very much, Robbie.
Chair, just will I have your attention just briefly, because just in case I have to go have another committee shortly, but we can talk about this later. But I just want to see clarification as to what it means in the bottom element of that. However, no proposal was made that the committee should oppose the question that a clause should stand part of the bill at consideration stage. I don't know. A clause should stand part of the bill at consideration stage. So just after this, I just want to. That means I just be a bit confused by it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just means that no proposal was made that a clause should be removed or at this stage or opposed at consideration. It's hard to explain that differently than it's written. Daniel, Clark.
There is actually an explanation of the consideration stage and clause stand part issue at the end of the report, because it's a funny phrase. It is a bit odd, so I thought it was worthy of explanation. So we can have a look at that.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, where did I get to? Diane?
Robin.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Nicola?
Yeah, happy with that, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Justin?
Yes.
Thanks, Justin. Harry?
Follow the lead, sir. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does that make sense for you, Clark?
Yeah, so it now reads, a range of views was reflected in the clause-by-clause consideration, of which a majority of members supported the clauses and proposed amendments, either entirely or subject to further work on adjustments, legal advice, clarifications and amendment. A number of committee members did not agree with the clauses as drafted, or with the sponsors' proposed amendments, or with the committee's amendments.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, is everybody happy with those two?
Okay, and members content then to agree the executive summary section? Agreed?
Justin wanted to come back in.
Oh, sorry, Justin. Apologies, Justin. Okay, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, back up to the previous page. The second last paragraph on the previous page of the executive summary. The first page of the executive summary, which is
page 54. Yep.
54. The committee sought to extend its committee stage a second time, given the complexity of the legal framework and the standing uncertainties as to the impact of the proposed clauses and amendments. I'm suggesting changing it to The committee sought to extend its committee stage a second time, given the complexity of the legal framework and outstanding uncertainties as to the legal, financial and area planning impact of the proposed clauses and amendments.
Yeah, I no objection to that. Might be worth me noting on the record that I didn't see a need for extension, but I don't need that to be written in a report. I can say that whenever it needs to be said. Members content with Justin's amendment? Yeah, I'm seeing heads nodding. Yep.
Content,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Content.
So,
And Chair, I think you've enjoyed this process, don't deny it.
okay, I'll enjoy getting it finished now. Okay. So members agree the executive summary section as amended. Agreed?
Can I just check that Diane doesn't want any amendments to that in between paragraph?
Okay. Diane? I think you're on mute, Diane, sorry.
Sorry, how could I ever be unmuted, Chris? I mean, look, this is a phrase that is throughout the report, which is the position of qualified for the support for the clauses of the bill as drafted. I don't think there was qualified support for the clauses of the bill as drafted. In many instances, there wasn't a lot of support for the clauses of the bill as drafted. So if we could get alternative language that would reflect that better, I think that that would be useful. Because I think that that would genuinely and honestly reflect the bill as drafted really wasn't supported in many instances as we went through the clauses. So what we were taking is a lack of a vote not to support as qualified support.
It's just
is there another way of expressing that?
So just to explain, it's not only that the committee didn't vote against the clauses. It didn't either oppose them, which is an extension of that. So that's two negative positions that it didn't take, if you know what I mean. So I do want to say overall position of uneasy qualified support, or is there some wording that would that you could suggest?
Okay, yeah. I guess at this stage, given the time that is available to the clerks to change, and for us to have to agree it now, there would need to be specific, proposed amendments. I know you expressed concern in relation to that earlier, Diane, but that is the nature of a report agreeing process at this stage of the committee stage. It's drafted and it's being agreed, so we need to have alternative text now to agree now.
Qualified, I suppose, means conditional, and then it specifies below what those conditions are. This further work on adjustment.
Is the removal of the phrase as drafted? Is that a way to tidy that up, Clark / Diane?
Well, it's more accurate. As taken.
Although the problem is that's a technicality, I guess, because that is what we're dealing with now. The amendments are proposed.
On the clauses of the bill.
It's really, I get your point, Diane, in terms of it's a technicality, I suppose. The bill as drafted is a technicality. Support is a technicality. Opposition is a technicality. I'm content that people's positions on this are adequately reflected. They're going to become even more clearer as the assembly process progresses as well. I don't think this text will do injury to that. I think I'm going to have to press this for specific alternative text here.
Right. Well, this is the problem with getting everything at the last minute, isn't it, really?
Okay.
And that's not Avine's fault. It's probably as much our fault as everybody else's. But I don't know the technical language for it. I would suggest that those people who draft the bill should think about that and come back to us before the end of the process here that we're going through. We have a lot more to go through.
Okay. Well, look, if you come up with alternative text in the meantime, we can return to that. But are members otherwise content with the executive summary section? Agreed?
Agreed, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. The introduction section is at page 56 of your table papers. Can I ask members if you're agreed with this section of the report as drafted? Agreed?
Chair, briefly,
Yeah, Daniel.
just a slight technical thing. Part 3 of page 56, the word promotion is evident. Could we maybe change that to support?
Okay, so page 56, the introduction section, page 56, paragraph number 3. The objectives of the Integrated Education Bill are described in the EFM as follows: to make provision about the promotion and provision of integrated education and to provide for reform and the expansion of integrated education. That is the text of the EFM. We don't get to amend that.
Oh, that's okay, Chair. No, that's all right.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's not our language. Yeah,
I picked that up. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay.
At the moment, we're looking at the AFM that accompanied the bill as introduced. If these changes are made at consideration stage, the EFM will change to say
will be different. Yeah.
Support instead of promotion.
But it's not committee language, Daniel. So you're grand in that regard. Okay. So just to recap, introduction section, page 56. Are members content with the introduction section? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank
Agreed,
you.
Chair.
Thanks. The consideration of the bill section is at page 62 and then into 63 of the tabled papers. Are members content with the consideration of the bill section?
Content, Chair.
Okay. Members agreed? No objection? Okay. The clause by clause scrutiny of the bill section is at page 65 of the tabled papers. Are members content with the clause by clause scrutiny of the bill section as drafted?
Sure.
Justin?
Apologies, Chair, can we back up? Paragraph 11.
Okay. Paragraph 11 is in the introduction section on page 58. 58. Yep.
I just think it needs to reflect the department's concerns around JR's financial implications in area planning.
Okay, so officials told the committee that the department had concerns that the bill may elevate. Okay. Have you a specific proposal as to with text you want to insert?
I just think that text needs to be included in that paragraph. JRs, they express concerns around JR's financial implications and area planning. I think that needs to be included in their department's concerns because they were
similar to the text inserted previously. Okay, where would you insert that? At the end, officials also expressed concerns regarding the requirement for every new school is established to be an integrated school and
potential for judicial reviews, the financial implications and concerns around area planning.
Okay. Members content with the insertion of that text in the introduction section of the report as drafted and content to agree the introduction section? Agreed?
Well, yes, one technical one, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can agree that. It's just before you move on.
So let me agree that then. Okay, so agreed on introduction section. And go ahead, Robbie, if you could tell me where it pertains to.
Yeah, okay. It pertains to, if we can pick this up right, probably paragraph 30, I think, and then it speaks to the start of the document. So it talks about the bodies, and then we have definitions of bodies.
Yeah, so let me just clarify for you. So we're returning to consideration of the bill section. Let's try and avoid jumping back and forth here as much as we can, but I'm also keen to let people contribute. Consideration of the bill is at the title is at page 62. The paragraphs start at page 63. And Robbie, you're referring to page 63, paragraph 30. Go ahead.
Yeah, the inclusion of CCEA in there as one of the bodies which is defined by the bill And then if we do that, then we also need to go back in terms of the abbreviations at the very start of the report to include what CCEA is. So it talks about the bodies. It's just, I had raised CCEA in regard to clause 6 in particular, and the impact that might have. So if we could just include CCEA in there and then define it in the earlier part, that's okay?
Okay, yeah, so in consideration of the bill section, page 63, paragraph 30, which the committee identified as main issues with the bill, you proposed maybe after perceived conflict between the existing statutory role of CCMS and SIA.
I think SIA needs to go in there, yeah. I know.
Yeah. Okay, are members content with that consideration of the bill stage as amended by Robbie? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you. Okay, that we return then to the clause by clause scrutiny of the bill section at page 65 of the draft report. Are members content with this section of the report as drafted? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Okay then, are members content with the appendices 1 to 9 that start at page 67? Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll try and move in a way that allows people to respond, but agreement appears to be there. Okay.
Sorry,
Robin?
Chair, my screen has frozen. I can't get any movement at all, just at the minute.
Okay. I can specify for you then, Robin. So the list links to the appendices. Appendix 1 is the printable version of the report. Appendix 2, the memorandum and papers from the department. Appendix 3, memorandum and papers from others. Appendix 4 are the already agreed minutes of proceedings. Appendix 5, minutes of evidence. Appendix 6, written submissions. Appendix 7, research papers. And Appendix 8, other documents relating to the report. Appendix 9, list of witnesses that gave evidence to the committee. So members content to agree those appendices? Agreed?
Agreed.
Great, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Can I seek agreement then to order the report?
Chair.
Yeah, sorry, who's that?
Sorry, before I know you're keen to get to the finishing line here, but I was noting a few things.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just to revert back to page 63, and literally I've just. So does the statement, the operational impact on education bodies, cover SIA? Do we need to reflect that?
Yeah, Daniel, I'll bring you in on this, but just let me keep order here, okay? So I'm showing a fair bit of grace to return to issues that have been addressed, okay? Probably within prerogative to not return to them, but let's be cooperative. You are returning us to page 63, which, let me just make sure everybody's clear, that is the consideration of the bill section at page 63. Do you know what numbered paragraph you're referring to?
A number of issues, just Chair, but it's number 30, paragraph 30. So
yeah, we'll take them in turn. Paragraph 30, page 63. Go ahead.
We covered that with CCA, Chair, to be fair.
Yeah, just check. Go ahead.
Yeah, but there's a number of issues that I think we need to probably include. And one is there's no mention of the fact that some of the duties being required of the department may be duties NICE should be performing. For example, promoting and producing a strategy and report about integrated education. Another point that may be considered has the potential impact of the bill on social services and playgroups. Does it need to be recorded? These are major issues. Should the problems around the presumption that all new schools be integrated be recorded? And finally, the Education Authority's concerns that they expressed about how it could perform its role if it had to promote or give the integrated sector preferential treatment. Should we be noting those sorts of things within the considerations, given that they were fairly heavily considered?
Okay, so again, I need specific proposal for you as to where you want to insert, remove, amend text. If you want to try that again.
Yeah, and just another point as well. It's not clear.
Wait. I'm trying to be helpful for you here. Okay.
Yes, but
we can all list things all day long. I need you to make specific amendment proposals here. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to
Fine.
finish on this point, though, Chair. You know,
Okay.
I've made scribbles throughout this whole document. The Department of Education, other advice we have obtained has pointed to significant potential for judicial review, so that also needs to be included. That there was concern raised in that regard. It's just to make sure that we're having a fair and reflective approach to this. So, in terms of proposing where we're at, so under. I need to think of a form of words here, Chair. I've been thinking about this as I've written them down.
Okay.
So that's been added into the section on the department.
Yeah, I think the
Okay.
last comment you made, Daniel, had been addressed by Justin in another section of the report. That's what you're saying, Clark. Yeah.
Yeah, so under the stakeholder description of what the department said, there's a number of issues, but these are the main issues that the committee found with the bill. So it is kind of trying to prioritise, which were the most concerning for the committee.
Yeah, I think there's
So it's
the
not exactly,
operation. There's
you know.
yeah, Daniel. Does the phrase "the operational impact on education bodies" not cover quite a bit of what you were referring to there?
Just reading the wording of it here, Chair. The operational impact of it and the resource implications of other sectors and bills and implementation. Yeah. So social services and playgroups as well. You know, they need to be included. That's not recorded.
Okay, so
I
again,
think you had Robin spoke about that yesterday in the clause by clause, so it's certainly in the Hansard. Do you want to elevate it to a main issue with the bill for the committee?
Yeah, but they're not educational bodies.
okay, so the operational impact on educational bodies, social services.
Social services and playgroups. Yeah.
Can I suggest to Daniel there, Chair?
Robin, yeah, go ahead, Robin.
Can I suggest to Daniel he might want the word negative in there?
Yeah.
The
Negative operational impact, is it?
Okay, yeah. You're proposing the negative operational impact. I don't know if that really changes it, but okay. The negative operational impact on education bodies, health and social care bodies.
Yes, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Very helpful.
Glad to be of assistance to you, Daniel.
No.
Health and
I don't think that was an issue with the bill for the committee. I mean, I think that's something that's just emerged very recently in the last couple of days.
yeah. The negative operational impact on education bodies, health and social care bodies, and the resource implications of other sections of the bill. Okay. Content with consideration of the bill section there, then, Daniel. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just for full clarity, then, folks. Sorry to have to ask for this again. However,
Can I,
Robin?
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, Chair. Page 66.
Still in consider. Okay. So let me just make sure we're agreed on that section as amended, and then I'll bring you in, Robin. So members, content with consideration of the bill section of the report as amended. Agreed?
No, Chris, sorry, what was that change that Daniel made? What paragraph was that to?
So
Paragraph 30, members. I'll just read out the amended. So there were two amendments. First of all, adding in Sia, and then Daniel's amendment. So it now reads, paragraph 30, committee identified as main issues with the bill, definitional issues, the extent of proposed duties on the department in respect of integrated education as compared with other sectors, perceived conflict between the existing statutory duty of CCMS and CCEA and the proposed duties of the bill, the extent of current integration in other sectors, the negative operational impact on education bodies, health and social care bodies and playgroups, and the resource implications for other sectors of the bill's implementation, and the nature and scrutiny mechanisms for the regulation making powers in the bill.
Thank you for that, Clark. Members content to agree the consideration of the bill section as per those amendments. Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, then, Robin, you wanted to come in on page 66, which would be the clause by clause scrutiny of the bill section.
That's it, Chair, and it's on page 66. It's a 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down, commencing with however. And it's similar. If we can get some form of words that, we started with a proposal by Robbie to reflect perhaps more accurately the views of the committee within that paragraph, Chair. Because as Diane said earlier.
Okay,
yeah.
so
I think it's nearly.
Those are the two same paragraphs, members, so we can make the same changes down here as we did in the executive summary, if that's.
The chair is. Sorry, Chair. The clerk has read my mind. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation, Robin. So we amend that paragraph as per the amendment to that same form of words in the previous section then, and members consent to agree the clause by clause scrutiny of the bill section of the report as per that amendment. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Okay, then that brings us back to seek agreement to order the report on the Integrated Education Bill to be printed as the first report of the mandate. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay.
Are we allowed to, Chair, are we allowed to express at this stage, or maybe it's within the overall context of the Assembly's work, indicate that we are maybe, I haven't got a form of words here, Chair, but in terms of the whole process, the rushing of the process, the timescale of the process, express our concerns at the piece of work that was done and the diligence of, well, maybe not diligence, that's the wrong expression, Chair, but just in the manner in which the whole process was handled. Are we able to include those thoughts within the lodging of the report, Chair?
I'm not entirely clear on what you mean, Robin. If you want to attempt the form of words, and the clerk could advise where that might be put. I think yesterday, by summation of the clause by clause, I referred to the over 100 days that we took. I'm not. You need a form of words there to put, I would say.
Sure.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'll give way to Justin there, Chair.
Thanks, Justin.
Just very, very quickly, back to what Daniel proposed previously. Can we change negative to potentially adverse?
It's like splitting hairs, but if members are content with negative being changed to potentially adverse, agreed?
That's the potentially adverse operational impact of education bodies, which was one of the main issues
with
the developments.
Okay, so just to be totally clear then, that is the consideration of the bill section, page 63, paragraph 30, the proposing to change the negative operational impact on education bodies, health and social care bodies, and playgroups, excuse me, to change negative to potentially adverse. Justin's amending your text here, Daniel. Are members content with that change? Agreed?
Great.
Agreed. Thank you. Okay. And I'll return to Robin. Apologies, Robin. And I don't think that was consistent with your concern you were raising, but so I'll return to you and let you put that concern again there.
No, Chair, I don't have a form of words exactly here, but trying to reflect that many of us felt that we were under extreme. I mean, just the very fact that we received this at 11:45 last night and are agreeing this at whatever time, 9:30 we started this morning, Chair. And in terms of good scrutiny and deliberation, I think we have been moving at a pace now, which potentially, not potentially, has had what were the words that Justin used there?
Potentially
adverse.
Potentially adverse implications for the whole bill.
Okay. I think those
And
comments
if
are on
Evie
the
can tell
record.
me, okay, well, that's okay with my if my comments are then on the record, if I'll take advice via you, Chair, from Evie, whether or not
Okay.
that
Clark,
needs to
Clark,
be
yeah,
included.
Clark. I mean, okay. I don't want to be in conflict with you, Robin, but that would
There's
not
no
reflect
conflict, Chair.
that. Yeah, no, that wouldn't reflect my experience or perception of the process. But I'm content to ask the clerk on your behalf if and where there would be a place for that potentially to be inserted, and then to seek views of the members in that regard. Clark.
Members, I would have to check with the business office whether there's any potential to add narrative like that when laying the report in the business office. It doesn't seem like a logistical observation in ways, but I'll find out. I'll advise the committee, and if that's not an option, I suppose the committee can write. I don't know, write to Mr. Speaker or make it clear at the consideration stage.
I'm content with the clerk's explanation, Chair.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, then, members, so I'll return then to seek agreement to order the report on the Integrated Education Bill to be printed as the first report of the mandate. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thanks, members. I will then seek agreement for a copy of the minutes of today's meeting, which can reflect those comments to be included in the report. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Did everyone
Thanks,
have a
ma'am.
chance to read the minutes? Yeah, and agree those.
Yeah, sorry, I'll return to that as well then, Clark. Can I seek agreement that an electronic copy of the bill report be published on the committee's webpage and sent to all organisations that provided evidence to the committee on the bill? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you, members. I would advise members that this concludes the committee stage of the Integrated Education Bill. As discussed, legal advice on sectoral bodies, etc., will be considered at next week's meeting, and there are many more opportunities for engagement on this bill in the other assembly stages, obviously. Okay, members, thank you for that. As the clerk reminded me there, we ought to return to the agenda item 3 draft minutes and seek your agreement for the minutes of the committee meeting of the 23rd of November 2021. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
Thank you, members. Okay, the date and time, any other business? No? Okay, the date and time of our next formal meeting then will be Wednesday, the 1st of December at 9:30 a.m, subject to correspondence from the clerk with regards any potential visits. Content with that, clerk? Yep.
Chair,
Yes, Pat?
are you actually saying we've no more meetings for another week?
It potentially looks that way. I said it with bated breath.
I hope you're touching wood. I hope you're touching wood.
Yeah, so currently Wednesday the 1st of December at 9:30. Okay. The meeting does now adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you,
Don't.
Chair.
Thanks, everyone.